impassioned phone call to me one day, and I listened and began thinking imaginatively about what could be done to assist him, but from an academic as opposed to a kind of activist or political role, which is not the sort of thing I'd like to get into anyway. And it occurred to me that for years I've been hearing from Italian-American friends stories, some of them decades old, of being denied promotions, of ethnic slurs, and then things that one would read about from time to time in the newspaper. And I also had always observed that there really wasn't a history of this, of anti-Italian prejudice in the United States, to compare with the sorts of things that have been written about African Americans, or about Jewish Americans, or about the Chinese, or about Latinos. And it became a kind of puzzle for me. Why haven't Italians written such a history? Okay? Not as an effort of complaining. In fact, as one reads the book that we put together, you'll see that in many ways it's a positive history. Things did get better for Italians in the United States. That's unquestionable. But there's a history of how things got better, and also a history of how bad things were, that hasn't been studied by historians of the Italian-American experience, who have instead focused on questions of neighborhood, family relations, religion, ritual practices, all valid and very important areas of the Italian-American experience, but the history of how Italians were received and the negative images of Italians is one that historians have avoided until now. And so I put together a conference with the help of Fred and with the help of Dominic, who was then executive director of the American Italian Historical Association. And we'll be showing in a few minutes a 10-minute version of the 30-minute documentary that we filmed at the conference. It'll just give you a taste of what went on at the conference. Then we also edited, Fred and I, this volume of essays by scholars, writers, talking about the history of this experience of Italians in this country. And it's the first history of anti-Italianism that has been published to date. There's only one collection. It's an anthology of newspaper articles done by Salvatore Lagumina, a book called WAP, History of Anti-Italian Prejudice in the United States. But it's not really a history. It's just photocopies or retyped articles anthologized from episodes in the past. It's a wonderful teaching tool, but it doesn't offer analysis and discussion the way that the essays in our book do. My own contribution, I'm an expert in Italy from about 1500 to 1800. My own contribution in the book regards early Italian, anti-Italian prejudices in the United States. And the original argument that I think I bring to the project is to point out that the experience of Italians in the United States was shaped in many ways by the negative images of Italians that existed in this country before Italians even began arriving in large numbers in the 1870s and 1880s. So I chart a history that begins with negative views of Italy in England that you find, for instance, in Shakespeare's plays. Think of all of the things that go wrong in Shakespeare's Italian plays. Think of Romeo and Juliet, Crips and Bloods, right? Think of Othello, questions of race and jealousy. Shakespeare presents an Italy in which personal honor and family honor matter more than the community and matter more than justice. Okay? All those things are projected onto Italy. That's one element in the negative views of Italy that were circulating before Italians arrived here. It's interesting that, for reasons that are understandable, after the Holocaust, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith protested against productions of The Merchant of Venice. And this lasted down until the 1980s, when there were protests against showing a BBC production of The Merchant of Venice on PBS. You can't imagine Italian-American organizations protesting the production of Romeo and Juliet anywhere. But yet there are images of Italians that are projected through Shakespeare's plays that helped shape in the past perceptions of Italians. Another element of this negative view of Italians is tied to the economic history of Italy. There's an old story which is that